George, I know George is going to sing his praises. It's George.
Yes.
Yeah, this man, it looks as though it's a foregone conclusion. If you look at the competition when it comes to that particular seat that it almost looks like he has bagged this.
Absolutely. The current chairman of AUC, Musa Faki, who is from Central Africa and largely had massive support from the ECOWAS region, is the current chair. So that region already feels contented. And then slightly before that, then you had Zuma's wife, ex-wife for Zuma, who was then the AU chair. She comes from the SADC region, which largely, again, has considered that we've had our turn. So everybody, the mood is that this is an East African time. And then, so then you look at East Africa, like in any other political warfare, is that you begin with your base. And then we saw almost all the 7 presidents of East Africa endorsing Raila the other day, openly. So leaving behind the Djibouti guy who also comes from East Africa, ordinarily he would expect the 7-8 votes before you even go anywhere. So he seems not to be having even a single vote, maybe his own country. And so looking at just the history of those individuals, and as far as their network across the continent, Raila Odinga is not a stranger to the SADC region. You know, President Ramaphosa and President Ichilema, all of them are his personal friends for many years. And then you look at the ECOWAS region, and you have Olusegun Obasanjo here, who's the titan of that region, you know, as General Obasanjo and the person that transitioned Nigeria into the modern democratic sphere, who then holds a hand with that ECOWAS region. You can easily tell that that's almost 2/3. Raila Odinga just needs 34 votes. So he can do with the other 20 votes. And that could mean maybe some of the Francophone countries, the French-speaking countries, that people have been saying might, you know, that has been the debate. In fact, the people who do not support Raila, they keep saying, you know, we still have the Francophone countries and they've endorsed the Djibouti guy. You know, I saw a post like that. But they're forgetting Francophone includes Congo, where Tshisekedi has already said Raila. It includes the other Congo, you know, Brazzaville, where again the president was there and he endorsed Raila, and a few other countries, Senegal, Ivory Coast there, you know, Alassane Ouattara, personal friend to Raila Odinga. All those are Francophone countries. So he could very easily have no competition. But you know, they say it's never over until it's over. So we pray that when he gets there, come this February, he gets to get there in first round, because they compete. Remember, the people he's competing with are largely just ministers of foreign affairs. None of them reaches his stature. You know, Raila Odinga is almost like it's almost presidential, even when you look at the way his presentation was made. It was not of a junior minister. Many people should remember that Amina Mohammed actually ran for that seat. There was no such fanfare for her. You understand? So he pretty much has a good backing. I wish him well. And it will be a major turning point for our politics, and I pray that he wins that election, so that at 80 years, that will be a good exit plan for him.
It will crown his political
career.
And his exit from politics.
For 60 years, Fred. He's the longest serving Kenyan politician alive. Nobody was there in 63 that is actively in politics today. But he was there and he voted for his father. So he's done well and we wish him well.
All right. James, your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't know. I used to have a soft spot for Raila Odinga, but that changed.
That changed?
Yeah, that changed.
What changed it?
I remember in 07, in 2013, following him, like, you see how disciples followed Jesus. Then when he did the first handshake, I mean the second with Uhuru, is it the second or the third? He's done so many. I was still behind him. I was like, we need to stabilize this country. We can't have 2 presidents. Or one is the Republic's president, the other is the people's president. And we had 2 presidents, and there was fears that Kenya would be divided into 2, that there would be a Kenya that belongs to Western, Coast, Eastern, and Northeastern, and another Kenya that belongs to Central and the upper part of Marsabit, so on. Well, for any sober Kenyan, I don't think you would want that for a country. So in 2017, 2018, I was pro handshake. I was for that handshake. And I think I was disillusioned. I think we should have just divided the country. I mean, Sudan still divided.
Yes.
It's possible to have two different countries from this one country. Let's have a country that has tribalism to one side and another country that is for better governance. I mean, because I supported the handshake in 2018. Back then I thought it was a good thing. In hindsight, I don't think it was a good thing. Because I think it is the normal kind of political games that I've been talking about. It's just mere survival tactics. And they're always looking for their own benefits. It's never about the people. Even this handshake is not about us. Mm-hmm. It is not about how Raila cares about the country and how benevolent he is and how he has such a huge, how do I put it? He has a huge space for Kenya in his heart. That is immaterial. Mm-hmm. It is about him and his interest, his party and his cronies. Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing in 2013. It was the same thing, in 07, and it was the same thing in 2018. That handshake in 2018 was not about us as Kenyans. It was not about uniting a Kenya. It was about his personal interest. And you see people like, I don't call them honorables, you already know that. Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula discovered that the handshake was just about Raila Odinga. Yeah. And they moved out when they realized they were outside the national cake, that it was about ODM and Raila as an individual. Even Kalonzo discovered that maybe probably too late. And he knows that even today. And I think it's part of the reason he did not want to join Raila Odinga to the bandwagon of Ruto and his KK alliance. And they know that it's about Raila and as an individual. And that is why...
So it's never been about Kenya?
No, it's never been about Kenya. It's about Raila, his succession and his party. And he knows how quickly parties die. I mean, we've had Kanu crumpled, we've had Jubilee. Jubilee would have gone down, it still has partially, but Uhuru had to pump so much money into it, and I don't know, does it have more than 10 MPs? I mean, how many MCs does it have? A party almost dies in this country when its founder just gets out of the political scene, because these parties do not have a real ideology.
So do you think he's going to bring any change once he becomes AFC chair?
Before we get there, I still loathe the fact that he had to sanitize Ruto, even after people, even after we were pro-Raila.
Yes.
And most of the Gen Zs are still pro-Raila. Some of them are taking themselves off that cocoon now. But we've seen him as the leader for change, as the emblem of good governance, as the epitome of better governance, and we followed him for years. But we forgot the fact that people are selfish, and they have their vested interest that they serve first before they serve other people. So this sanitizing of this government is actually another state capture. This country is almost a one-party system now. Because, I mean, we have folks who pretend to be opposition leaders, as you know, but can't pull masses. I am not throwing shade at maybe Eugene Wamalo, Jeremiah Kioni and the rest, but how many people can they bring to the streets? How many times have they themselves called demonstrations to the streets and actually attended those demonstrations, even if they were the only people attending those demonstrations? So Ruto had to use Raila to sanitize himself. Now that he goes to Nyanza, and they receive him like a king. They've forgotten he is the bad leader. They've forgotten he's corrupt. They've forgotten he's a thief. They've forgotten he's a liar. They've forgotten he's Arap Mashamba. He is now clean in their eyes. I was having a conversation with...
Are you guys concerned if this is the mindset of the Gen Z?
I do. And he's right.
Yes.
He's actually right in what he's saying.
For me, I think I'm 50-50. Not to say that like, Ruto is good. Mm-hmm. From where I sit, there are so many bad things in terms of governance.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that for a country to be at war, you can just check on your neighbors, allowed East African. That's when you can actually get to feel what is it that it means for a country to have systems and to be in peace. Sure. So those are the things I'm saying. When we are saying all these things, it is good also to balance between actually getting to where other countries are and where Kenya is. Because it is very easy, by the way, to get country to the drain. Without actually checking on some few things, you may find that, like what James is saying, dividing the country into two.
Yes.
It can be a war that will never end. Because people are trying now to get into resources. This is our resource, this is our resource. So you find a lot of battles whereby everybody, not Gen Zs, not even the millennials, all the people are actually unable to move and to operate. So what we are saying is, if, for example, we can be serious in terms of our three arms, judiciary, which I know it has not worked very well, but we can keep on developing whatever we have. But I feel it is actually something that is good when the people are moving. Because right now, for example, you find that the demonstration, not for Gen Z alone, but even the ones which were for the Azimio the other time, you can see the effect that it brought to so many people. So it is already a bit appeal to quite a number of people, in the sense that some of the people went, they took your business, which you have built honestly, and you have done it with your, no corruption. It is actually, you have gone to the banks, you have borrowed money, you've not even paid the loans, and if people come and they just take the whole of the business down. So you can imagine some families, some of the people you find, you are just on the streets, like the way the Gen Z were killed. Yes. There are some families who are actually crying right now. Why? It is because some of the people that they had hope that they would be able to help the families, they have actually been wiped away. So it is what...
If I listen to James, it's like he's saying we really don't have leaders who care about country. It's all about...
Yeah, but let me tell you, yes, leaders, and I would say, with what James, that's why I agree with James.
Yes. You see, I hate the fact that you have to compare Kenya with East Africa, while we all know those countries are shoddy. Tanzania has unity, that we know. But then how are they progressively, economic-wise, and socially, and politically? They are not better than us. We should be, if we have to compare ourselves, how about we compare ourselves with countries that are better than us economically, politically, social welfare-wise, because there isn't a shortage of such countries. So that is my first rejoinder. I think we should start comparing ourselves with countries that are better than us, so that we can aspire to have that. You see, there was a time I was thinking we should have a dream as a country. And I think it is about time we popularize this. That you see, for example, I'm not putting so much praise on America, but America has a dream. When you emigrate to America, or if you're born to that country, they have something they look up to, should I say?
The American dream.
Yeah, the American dream, and they know what it means. We do not have a dream, a vision as a country, and that.
What about Vision 2030?
Well, Vision 2030 was a good idea by Kibaki, but then how is its implementation going after Kibaki exited power? So you see, we need to have a dream as a country, something we look up to, our ethics as a country, because we have normalized mediocrity for a long time, that we are normal, we've normalized and been okay with politicians playing with us because they have the numbers. And that is why we should not deify some people. And that is why I am against some people who appear to be vocal in this Gen Z thing, because we are going to give them so much platform, we are going to make them gods, we are going to deify them, and we are going to have the same problem.
Of this one.
We are going to have the same problem we have with Raila Odinga now. You give some people too much power, actually not some people, you give people too much power, you will come to regret it, because once power is given, it is so hard to withdraw it. Look at someone like Waititu. He has power. He may not have authority now, but he has power. There are people who he would call to the streets to protest probably against the current governor. But Waititu didn't have gotten power in the first place. So we've donated too much power to the wrong people at the right time.
Is it that we don't have leaders that, that can be emulated?
Kenyans don't want those leaders. They want the drama people. They want the PR people.
Fred, Kenyans do. And that's why most of us that have largely been considered as Gachagua was saying we are addicted to opposition.
Yes.
But it's not addiction to opposition, but we are addicted to good governance. And have continuously chosen to stand in the path of what we believe in. And that's why, Fred, up until today, I have never voted for a president from my community, despite having big leaders. I think our community has some of the very many options, even going to these elections. Yes. We are probably the highest. But up until today, Fred, I have never attended any campaign and funded or participated in mobilizing even one vote for those leaders that have before come from my community and purported to want to be leaders.
What he says,
I want to explain why.
Yes.
Is because I truly believe in institutions and structures and what you're calling the Kenyan dream, which is they're calling the Kenyan promise. That's why they called it. When they crafted the Vision 2030, is an idea of what Kenya can be like. And that's why they put up even those landmark projects that they had, the LAPSET project and the Ethiopian corridor, because they're saying, you see, if we open the north, we are going to have large masses of land that we can irrigate and create food. There's an idea of what an ideal Kenyan is. But you see, it's the kind of leaders that have been coming in between here that have constantly been deviating from that promise.
I hate to interrupt you, but a Kenyan dream should not be about projects. It's not about infrastructure. It should be about our culture as a country, and a political culture and a social culture. It's a mindset. A dream is a mindset. We need to change how we think about tribalism. We need to change how we think about good governance. So that, for example, I am not accepted by my people and voted for because I have large sums of money that I'm distributing to them. We need to kill tokenism in this country. We need to kill patronage in this country. We need to kill clientelism in this country. We need to have a dream that is anchored on a vision that is about the mindset, more of the culture, because politics is a culture than on projects. We can have as many roads as we can have in this world. We can have actually every road in every village, in every street. We can have an airport in every county. We can make every county a city in Kenya. But if we don't deal with that culture, the culture that we have in our heads, that is where we will fail. And that is why Kibaki failed. He failed with tribalism. He succeeded with everything, but he failed with tribalism.
Fred, the Kenyan promise, maybe just quickly before David comes in, he's actually right, it's just that maybe I've not said it. The Kenyan promise is not just about the infrastructure, the way they structured it. Towards when people are arguing for the new constitution and the fights that were there are people who had ideas of what you're saying, that what would an ideal Kenyan be thinking as an ideal country for him. And that's why they crafted it, what they call the American dream. They decided to brand it the Kenyan promise. That this is what I desire as a person. The challenge that has been on the road towards that path, my brother, has been then the shoddy leaders that we've had. You understand? They've constantly deviated us. That's why I was giving this Vision 2030 as an example. They were crafting and saying, each Kenyan deserves, for example, equitable access to state services and government resources for development in their village. Then they went an extra step and say, let it not just be theory. Let us look at the entire country and say who deserves what. And that's why they came up with those landmark projects, because they knew that we, in areas around Mount Kenya or in Western region where we are overpopulated, we might not produce enough food, but we need to be food sufficient. Then we need to spend the billions to do the northern road towards Ethiopia, because there are large tracts of land there, and you have a big lake Turkana there that can be desalination, I don't know what they call that, so that then we can have good water for large-scale farming, so that Kenya does not have to spend 600 billion importing food. So it was part of that promise, so that when I'm a child going in Samburu or in Maralal, so somewhere in Marsabit there, Maborana, I still believe I can make it just like the kid who is in Kiambu here and has to use a dual carriage all the way to Kenol. You understand? So that promise is there. And that's what I was bringing in, even why me at a personal level.
So the problem has been leadership.
The leadership that has been there.
Is it that we are bankrupt of leaders? Because we have... Now we can actually say we have pretenders to the throne because we have leaders who have come in. Is it that we are bankrupt?
By the way, let me tell you, Fred, Kenya has very many good leaders. In fact, it has a lot of skills and knowledge in terms of what happens. The problem is when people get into politics, there is something that we call interest. And you see, it starts wrong. Things don't go bad, they start wrong. In the sense that, for example,
they don't go wrong,
yes, they start wrong. In the sense that, like, go to the when we are choosing the leaders. And that's what James is talking about, the handouts. We are giving people 50 bob. So what will happen is that a good leader will emerge in terms of portfolio of 5. But what will we do? We will choose money than a leader. The leader who can give us more handouts is the one that will tout him more, and we come and say, this is our leader. So what has happened is we are to blame, by the way, in terms of putting the yes, we are to blame. In terms of we are the people who have put them there. No one leader, especially the members of parliament, are there by just maybe the nominated one. But I can tell you the one who we have voted, most of them, majority, it is us Kenyans who have put them there. So in terms of the culture, it needs to change with the citizen. In terms of, there are several things that you are going to look at. In fact, someone who comes to bribe you, you should actually now throw them out by the basis that you are already a corrupt guy. But if you continue with someone who comes and gives you handouts, what are you saying? Go there and continue with your business of being that kind of a leader. I would actually tell you one thing. Look like people like Kifudha Kibwana.
Yes.
By all standards, this man understands when it comes to governance, what it really means. In fact, even during the time that he was being pushed by the MCAs, it got to a point and he said, well, no problem, I will not do what you are saying because it is not legal. So what do? We can actually tell the president this whole thing, and we go back to the people, and the people will tell us whether this is what they want or not. So what we are saying is, the problem is actually we started wrong.
Because right now, Kifudha had intimated in the last election that he would have, vied for presidency.
Yes.
But 100% he would not have won. In the current psyche of the country, then what he says, we don't want good leaders.
Fred, what we lack has been enough civic education to inform the voters on what you call the opportunity cost of not participating in politics and choosing of leaders, and most importantly in choosing the right leaders. And it has been a challenge even for somebody like me who has grown over the years now, the last maybe 4 elections since 2002, and I voted, from that referendum in 2005 at Parklands. I went and voted no because I had taken time to read through what the draft proposal was, and from where I sat, I felt like this is not correct, you understand? But then we did some amendments, and then we had the big offer in the constitution, which was devolution. And so when 2010 came, this time round, I was excited that, Fred, whether or not you voted for a particular government, my county or your county of Muranga does not need to be sidelined just because of your political decisions. You have your 10, 15, 20 billion, and there's the people of Muranga, you can plan yourself. And so I woke up very early to know this time round to support that vote because that's what I stood for. So we lack a big critical mass of people that look at things from that angle. That's why even me, I had trouble, me and my brother Sifuna, we had trouble with some of our people in Western there in Bungoma, because they constantly, when I can see this is a weak leader that has been in public service since 1988 when I was 3 years old, and 40 years later he's still in the cabinet. The road to his own village does not even a single tarmac, Fred, which is just 50 million. He has been unable to tell a president who he has unlimited access to that, please, you can give me 500 million, at least I do these 10 kilometers in this village, even so that my own people that gave birth to me can feel the weight of government. It hasn't happened. Now when you come and tell my own people that this person has failed, and they say you're a traitor. So the problem goes back to the people. And largely I think is civic education and culture, which then will take us time to get us there, so that we can begin to understand the importance of choosing leaders based on our personal interests as a person, that if Fred is not good enough to do this particular job, even if he's as black as me, he does not fit to be in this particular position, isn't it? And that's what James is saying, and I agree with, and I'm saying this, it has been a long time challenge, and personally I've been at it for years, and I'm glad. Fred, when we were watching the Gen Z demos, we were here with you, and it was live. And I was telling you, I'm happy that now we can begin to get young leaders that are looking at things differently. That a young lady can, on her phone, maybe he's just borrowed her father 100 shillings to buy data, but can go live with 100,000 people. You can imagine what that means. That's like 3-4 stadiums listening to her. She can pass massive message, and they can think differently from the way we do our funeral politics, David, in the village there. Yes. That if me and David beef in a hotel or a bar, he tells me, tutakutana in a funeral. So I'm tired of those people. So I'm happy with what James is saying, which then it leads us to the next phase, and I hope the next election, we might not have everybody, but we need a critical number, the size of people that think along those neutral lines.
And then, if you look at what is happening right now,
can I say something?
Yes.
As for the Kenyan dream and the Kenyan promise is too heavy, is too invested on development and infrastructure. It is forgotten the key thing that we should be pushing. If it is somewhere in between the Kenyan promise, we should give it more audience. We should give a better culture more audience.
Yeah.
Because see, for example, There was a time this country, almost every tribe in this country was practicing FGM.
Yeah.
And we got to a point we decided and we pushed and we did campaigns against FGM. And as a country, we've made strides past that. As you all know now, it's a culture that's in the past books now. It is possible to move past tribalism. It is possible to move past corruption and graft. It is possible to move past bad governance. It is possible to move past sycophancy. It is possible to move past tokenism, but we have to give audience to it. This is what matters. The roads don't matter. The airports don't matter that much, but our culture matters that much, because we have a generation that is still coming after us. We are not the last generation. There is a generation that is coming after us and another generation that is coming after them. So if we do not empower this generation and the generations to come with a different mindset, with a different dream, with a different culture, we still have failed as a country, because they will cry, they will agitate, they will hit the streets for years. Personally, I thought the current dispensation and the current conversations that we have for better governance, for tribelessness and so on would come probably 100 years from now. I'm glad this came earlier than I thought, but I was willing to have that fight till my last breath. And I'm glad we're having these conversations now. I would want us to push a dream about a culture, that we aspire to think different, that we aspire to love everyone from every tribe. I was having a conversation with some Kenyans at Jacaranda, at Jivanji, Bunge la Wananchi, and they were thinking, most of them who are still pro-Raila, mostly above 40s, late 30s and so on. So they have refused to think different. They have refused to dream differently. They still follow that man. His legacy untouched, but they have refused to metamorphosize. They still think that he is right even when he is wrong. They know the government is wrong. They know the government is bad, but they are now willing to sanitize Ruto and call him good just because Raila went to Ruto. So I was asking them about Sifuna and about Oparanya, about Joe, about Babu. So I asked them, these are your children, because they belong to ODM, because most of them were ODM supporters. So I asked them, if Oparanya today says, or Joe or Babu Wino says, I am not pro-government, I do not think that we should move as a party to the government, because that would be selling our ideology as a party, because we support better governance. And we know with Ruto there can't be better, because he is incorrigible and he is redeemable, and they understand that. And they
Those are very strong words.
Yeah, and they now want to understand. They now want to pretend that that he is good, just because he's given some positions to ODM and that he's promised a bag of goodies to Nyanza and to Western, which he does, by the way, promise. He's good at promising, but bad at doing. He's launched projects at Kitui, more than 3 times the same project. He launched a project in 2016, relaunched it in 2020, then he has relaunched it, I think, in 2022 or 2023, and he is going to relaunch that project. He is good at promising to do something, and he put some people to do the groundwork, some preparations here and there, and you think that he's doing anything. It's just a facade.
Since right now, if you look at, because I can see time is running fast, if you look at what is playing out now, there are alliances that are already forming. Alliances that are already forming. Are you guys saying that we do not have people or let me start with you, James, and you'll be brief. Are you saying that these alliances we are seeing now, it's almost Luo Nyanza is in the Ruto camp, and Junet Mohammed has already been attacking Kalonzo Musyoka, because Kalonzo Musyoka is on their side, and he's told him, stop pretending to be the opposition leader. You're not. I am the opposition leader. So come the election, you are definitely going to have Ruto, you will have Kalonzo Musyoka, you will have the Rigathi Gachagua of this world, and probably you will have a gentleman from Western Kenya.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, see, the problem we have...
That is Natembeya, that is.
The problem we have in this country is a bad culture. And tribalism is part of that culture. These coalitions are not about a better country. They are not about better governance. They are about this tribe brings this amount of votes, this tribe brings this amount of votes, so let's have a coalition between these tribes that would guarantee us votes, not on our merit, on our credit score, or on our track record.
But when I look at what is happening in the States, I mean, you have to bring, elections are about numbers, and all politics is local.
Yeah. Sure.
When I look at what is happening in the States, they're fighting for blacks. They're fighting for Hispanics. Is it more or less what we're doing?
If we are honest about coalitions, it would make more sense if coalitions were about regions. For example, the people of Northeastern and Eastern who feel marginalized, if they came together, they want to form government because they want development and infrastructure to their area. That would make sense. But it is about tribes, and we can't run away from that. It's about Mount Kenya sees itself as a community, and how many votes are we bringing? Can we have someone from Western? Can we make them a prime minister? Can we make them a speaker? Can we make them a deputy president? Can we promise them something so that they would stick with us, so that they would bring Luhya votes? We need to move past that. We need to think past that, because that is the problem that has been deviling Kalonzo for a very long time. I am very certain here, saying it live on camera, I know Kalonzo Musyoka wanted to vie for the presidency in 2017, in 2013, and in 2022. But he still clings behind Raila because he wants votes from the Nyanza region. He wants votes from the Western region. If Kenya was not as tribal as it is, we would have leaders like Omtata, like Natembeya, long gone. I mean, they would have vied for the presidency a long time ago. We would have Kivuda seriously going to the ballot, Alfred Mutua, we would have Oparanya, we would have Mukisa Kitui, we would have Wanjigi, we would have had so many candidates who want to have the presidency, because the country would be thinking different. They know they will not be galvanizing support based on their tribes. For example, Wanjigi wouldn't be afraid of Gachagua or Uhuru Kenyatta because they come from the same backyard. He would be sure that Mount Kenya would not solely support Rigathi just because he's Kikuyu. They would be willing to vote for someone
give him
else.
votes.
Yeah, and you see,
so how do we try? Yes.
Fred, and James is very right, and the culture of people and the transition to the next phase of mindset that then can give us the kind of leaders that we are talking about. But that process needs action. There's a path to that, and he's given a very good example of FGM, that this was a cultural practice that was there. Then people invested their time and money in civic education, and a lot of money was there in the villages to try and push this. So you need a process to get there. If, for example, and sometimes that process includes many things, civic education, exposure, poverty, and all these things, I am telling you, Fred, and I've given myself as an example, that if my own people, you see, my father has a brother, my own father, and he has a family. But my uncle chose to remain in the village, and he became a farmer and he's raised his family. But most of his kids then are in the village there. I have a cousin whom we are almost the same age. I am telling you, if Ruto reaches my cousin, he would easily buy him out because of the kind of information that he lacks, the exposure and probably the information that I get to see on daily basis. Maybe nowadays, you know, technology, what it has done, because he's now on Facebook, he can also tell me, hey, I've heard this and this has happened. So he has access to information. So if Ruto, if Kakamega County, for example, had people who are thinking like me, Ruto would never get even one vote. Because we know who he is, and we can see through him and through his kidneys. But you see, not everybody has that benefit. So there's that process then that we need to get to what James is saying, is that access to information and the civic education, so that then I can begin to think openly. It cannot just happen by osmosis. We can wish it, but then it's in the doing that then we can get there. And I think we're slowly getting there with the new platforms and the kind of voters that we're developing here. The voters who are young and from wherever angles they are, they're able to mobilize themselves. That's why me and the other day, David, were here. We're very proud of what has happened with the young people. It means we are raising a considerable number of people then that can dilute the base. Because ordinarily we would sit and say, okay, we have 5 million Kikuyus, we have 4 million Luyas, and 3 million Kambas. This alliance has 15 million people. You can loosely say that. But with the emergence of what we're having now, you can't grossly generalize like that, David. You understand? And I think it's that step towards that. And I think civic education and social media has given us that platform, that somebody who was not informed of who Ruto is, now in my village, in his small 3G phone, can also see, oh, so kumbe these projects, he doesn't execute them, it would think differently. Otherwise, without that information and exposure, David, and this president, the way he's a good showman, he would very easily get him in the village there and might not be act like they were. So me, I think the challenge is the culture, but it will take us time to get us there. And Fred, we have to come from somewhere, just to sum up because of time, is that even in the US, you can easily predict this is the blue state, this is the red state, this is a Latino, would very easily vote for the Democrats, because we have to come from somewhere, and as human beings, we are socialized in certain ways. That's why you can tell this is a conservative. And you can say, so it's a southern state, most likely it's a Republican state. That's why even elections in the US, they don't really go to those strong states. There are those swing votes, that's why you go campaign. Because those are the actual people who will turn around the election. Because there are other states you can easily predict, these ones, I just know California, Chicago, and New York would be blue. And those electoral votes, Kamala Harris doesn't have to go there and spend her time there. So we'll get there someday, but we are making good progress. And particularly the young people continuously are participating in the election. And I pray that the young people begin to continue to understand the opportunity cost of not participating in the election, so that next time we don't have 8 million people not voting. Because the 8 million people who went to bed while we were going to vote really could have costed us. If we were to cost what they have done to us, it could be a lot of cost. He's a finance guy, he can tell you it's a lot. But going forward, I think I'm hopeful that we keep this percentage of people that think like James and myself that have been over the years, open-minded and willing to work with anybody who's willing to build the country.
Well, Fred, I would say that all of us are looking for good governance.
Yes.
The issue is how do we get this good governance? Good governance is not an event. It is a process. It takes time. And I would just want to reiterate on one thing. We have the 2010 Constitution. It did not just happen. It was through a lot of push that we got that constitution. It may not be what we are looking for. There may be some few things which are not in the right place in the constitution. But if you remember, for several years, we had to fight for the new constitution. So what we are saying is that let's not assume that we'll get the good governance by just an event like this. It is whereby we need so many things and persistence, whereby we are pushing on changing several things. Like now, James started and he said very well, there are some of the Gen Z now who are getting prominence. You know, if for example, the prominence they are looking for, when we come to a place and people are being positioned, they may not be the best people, but they will be actually be praised in some institution simply by the fact that are the people that they are thinking that these are the leaders or these are the people. But in terms of are they good people? So you see, that's why we started by saying where we have a problem is lack of that prominence and getting to be known. Who are the people who are able to drive this change? And I would really say that it is actually something that we really need to be, such that we start working on some few things. And we have said there are so many things which have actually started changing. FGM, it was a process. It wasn't easy. Actually, it was such a difficult thing to bring that now idea that we cannot continue with FGM. You find there are several things which keep on changing, and it takes a bit of time. So I would say that all of us, everybody, you are in Kenya. I am in Kenya. George is in Kenya. James is in Kenya. We really need a good Kenya. But let me say, when we want to build a good Kenya, we must also ensure that we are also having check and controls so that we don't actually destroy everything in the bid of actually being a good Kenya. So that is one thing I would say. When we are doing whatever we are doing, we need also to be a bit cautious and be able to see that whatever action we are doing, we ask ourselves, what would be the end result? Will it make us get there, or is it going even to take us further from where we are looking at? So I feel let's all have work for good governance, but let's follow the process.
So with that, I must say the time is really spent. We got to bring the curtains down on the show. We are going to go to 2027. Already, the media is already packaging people for that particular seat, and alliances are already taking places. And by the time we get there, we'll have quite a number of leaders who will have presented themselves as leaders. We also have pretenders to the throne, and people who are projecting themselves as leaders, but they know nothing about leadership. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the welfare of the country. So, like the paneler said today, we Kenyans are to blame. We are the ones who are voting these people. We celebrate people when they come together with people we love, whether they're good or bad. We celebrate them. We forget what we are. What exactly do we want as Kenyans? If we knew that, then it will be easy to make those decisions. Does it fit the vision of what I want? No. Does it fit? Yes. Then we vote for them. So that's the onus. It's on us. We are the ones who have to decide what we are going to do and where this country is going to go. We are going soon to hand over this country to the next generation. What are we going to hand over to them? A messed up country with a bad psyche, bad mentality? Our children will take us to court because of that. So let's do something. Let's see how we can change this. In Jesus' name. So we bring the curtains down. To have yourself a lovely morning. Remember that one of the things that we're going to be doing after this will also show you what is happening at the Rima Fest. So don't go away. We'll show you some of those videos.